Just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to tavistalks.com right now. That's tavistalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is Thought-Provoking Thursdays, Atiba's show. Historically, on our program on Wealthy Wednesdays, has now moved to Thursday afternoons, Thought-Provoking Thursdays. Our conversations with Atiba. Atiba is the former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, NBCSL. He's a strategic alliance consultant and president of Party Politics US. He's worked as a TV political contributor for BNC News, The Heat, In the Know with Mo, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, GovExec, 96.3 WHUR, and the One America News Network. He most recently was a guest host on Rising and American Daily News and opinion web series produced in Washington, D.C. by the political newspaper The Hill. In 2020, Atiba released his first novel, Saving Grace, a political thriller. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse, Happy New Year, and it's great to be back.
Atiba, I am so grateful that you're here. There are a number of subject matters that I'd like to cover today, including but not limited to Minneapolis, Venezuela, and what's going on generally in the world. But one of your consulting specialties is collecting data to determine what the American people want the President of the United States to work on. Can you share a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah, so, geez, it's hard to believe it was 11 years ago. A friend of mine came up with this idea of why don't we get a chalkboard and let young people on a college campus educate us about what it is that they wanted to see the next president work on. And what we did was Home Depot built us a chalkboard, which was 400 pounds. You learn a lot when you do these things, but it was on wheels. And then we wheeled it out. And the whole idea of when I started organization called Party Politics US was about how do you put the fun before the politics to attract people. So Coca-Cola donated refreshments and items, and someone else came out with a drone, and we had music, and we created this party around a chalkboard at Texas State University. Within 4 days, 7,500 plus students had written on the board what they wanted to see the next president work on. Wow. And what we learned from that was people just want to be heard. And so we had, different viewpoints. Some people wanted to be able to conceal and carry. Some people wanted abortion rights. It was like whatever it was there. And then some things that ended up becoming repetitive, we just said to people, just check check next to those items. And it was fascinating that those students weren't just sharing what they wanted to see the next president work on, but that they said simply by feeling like they were being heard, that it made them want to vote. And from there, and we called it chalkboard conversations. And from there, we started doing that. And then we started having different conversations. We started doing like little group talks and then panels. And then that took us to Drake University for the Drake debates. It took us to Morgan State University. It took us to Virginia State University. It just took us to all these different places. But ultimately, what it taught us is that people, regardless of age, because then older people who saw that we were posting this were like, well, what about us? So we started a private group on Facebook, and people started talking. And what the whole idea was, how can we do this and get people from across party affiliation, religion, ethnicities, gender, etc., together to have these conversations? And it just became fascinating. And that's what we started doing. That's how we started collecting data.
I think that's a fascinating story. I do have a question, though. 11 years later, can you imagine that what the same students or a different set of students might be writing on a similar board if you had to wheel a 400-pound Home Depot onto the yard of Texas Southern or Texas State?
Texas State. That's where Lyndon Johnson's, I want to say library, but I know Lyndon Johnson School is there. But well, first of all, we learned how to buy small chalkboards and take pictures of people writing on those chalkboards. They're a lot lighter and a lot easier to transport. Imagine trying to get a 400-pound chalkboard from Texas State University to Drake University in Iowa. It was a chore. And believe it or not, there were some students from Texas State University that volunteered that did that, and they took that trip. Today, yes, I do think, we live in a very volatile, very sensitive nation where anyone who disagrees with us, people automatically think that they're against us. And I often use the phrase to people that if you take a glass and put it on a table, and we're all sitting around the table, we all came to the table from different places, but we're all looking through the same glass. And as we look through that glass, we're going to see something different. In other words, we all come from different viewpoints. We all come from different journeys, but we could be looking at the same thing, but have a different perspective. And I think just overall, that's where that's what's going on in this country, is that we're looking through the same glass. We're looking through the same country. We're all part of the same country. We just have different perspectives because we've had different journeys.
Kind of feels like the Canterbury Tales. We're all trying to get to the Archbishop, the monk, the friar, the various characters in, I think, Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales kind of gave some semblance of what we're going through as a nation, and certainly what Atiba experienced on Texas's campus. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays. Our conversations with Atiba will continue when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
10 athletes will face the toughest job interview in fitness that will push past physical and mental breaking points. You are the fittest of the fit. Only one of you will leave here with an iFit contract for $250,000.
This is when mindset comes in.
Someone will be eliminated.
Pressure is coming down.
Trainer Games on Prime Video January 8th. Watch the trailer on trainergames.com.
Looking for something new? Try fencing, the Olympic and Paralympic sport that mixes speed, strategy, and fun. It's like chess meets cardio. Quick feet, quick decisions, and a satisfying beat when you score a point. Kids, teens, and adults can start anytime. No experience needed, and many clubs have loaner gear. Coaches teach fundamentals and safety from day one. Find a beginner class near you at usafencing.org/tryfencing. That's usafencing.org/tryfencing.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. The next hour, we will be in conversation with Atiba on a myriad of issues, and one that is dominating the news as we speak is the tragic shooting and the loss of life in the state of Minnesota of a young 37-year-old mother, young white woman, who was exercising, by all obvious and objective accounts, her First Amendment rights to talk to law enforcement, shout at them, scream at them. They were certainly being somewhat aggressive when he grabbed her car door as if he was going to snatch her out of her car. Whatever that conversation was, that clearly, from my perspective, did not lead to her being read her Miranda rights, the right to remain silent, the right to counsel, all of those things that you're issued when police officers get ready to snatch you out of your car, which is clearly what he was doing when he grabbed the door handle. But the irony for me, Atiba, is this, and I'm not just talking about the fact that this tragedy occurred just 4 blocks from where George Floyd was killed. I'm talking about all of the incidences where an unarmed African-American man or woman were denied their rights, were not read their rights, were unarmed, and trained law enforcement officers shot them. Now, I make the distinction between trained law enforcement officers who function at the municipal level and Border Patrol agents who work near the nation's borders to secure them, and their interaction with legal immigrants, illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, the process that we never read about in the paper when some action between Border Patrol and someone crossing the border goes awry. It doesn't make the news. But given the behavior of how the American people themselves are being treated by ICE in our cities, we can only imagine that which we cannot see, when ICE is actually on the southern border, that some crimes against humanity are taking place that the American people have never heard about. You're getting your behind whooped by ICE in Minnesota or Chicago or Los Angeles or wherever else ICE is, you better believe someone who has absolutely no constitutional protection is taking it on the head. But this event yesterday is particularly troubling because not only because of the national attention, but it wasn't a young black man or Breonna Taylor. It was a white woman. And an agent shot her in her face. An unarmed woman. The consequences of that, Atiba, I think, are just as extraordinary as any event in the last 30 years of civil rights and social justice. Atiba?
So many things come to mind with all that. Thank you for that, Jesse. First off, my thoughts, my prayers, my condolences to her family.
Mm. Mm.
Ron Garan, an astronaut, just spent 178 days on the space station. And he talked about living a lie. He talks about, in an interview, he talks about seeing the earth from above and seeing lightning hit in one place and how it reverberated across the planet, even though we don't see it. He talked about how he could see not just the 7 continents, but see how all the continents and then the people all connected. He questioned and asked, are we doing and living the right way by putting profit over the planet?
Wow.
I'm saying this because what we are seeing today, whether or not it's in Russia or China or the United States, is a reverberation of a few men who are using the power that they believe that they have, and that they're targeting people who are innocent in the pursuit of profit. And over time, we look at religion and scripture and we say the word profit. All of these things that we are seeing happen today have been prophesized. We have put our faith and our belief in other things aside from the Creator. And until we come back to recognizing that, then our humanity and our livelihood and our lives are at stake. So you have people that believe that these men will make their lives better. And again, what I said before the break, perspective. People are coming to these things with different perspectives, and we don't want to listen to how and why they feel the way that they do, because there's so much that's thrown at them that is creating fear as opposed to offering hope.
Let me ask this question, Atiba, because my father often tells this story of how, I guess it's Robert F. Kennedy, he went to an urban area and he held up a little black child, and the nation's response when Bobby Kennedy was running for president, I think in 1968, was poor little black baby. Look at Bobby Kennedy holding poor little black child. But then he went to Appalachia and maybe even to deep rural South, and he held up a kid of a similar age, but the kid was poor and white, tattered clothing, hungry, ill-kempt, I struggle with hygiene, absence of water and soap and basic, and living in a shotgun house. And America's response between Bobby Kennedy holding up the little black child was one response, like all little black kids are in poverty, so we understand that. But when they saw the little white kid in poverty, the country responded with this idea of a fervor for a war on poverty and to eliminate poverty. I'm thinking in this moment that the death of this mother in Minneapolis, and we've seen how we've been treated as young African Americans, some of whom have died due to police behaviors. You know, we're so used to young black men getting shot. Just another brother got shot. Chicago has a crime problem. There's just another, look how violent Donald Trump says we are in these various cities. But this is different. This is a white woman who got shot exercising her constitutional rights. And Kristi Noem, the administration, the president, the vice president, offer an interpretation of events that the investigation itself has not yet rendered. And I'm finding a level of hypocrisy and irony in that. Atiba?
Muhammad Ali said the hands can't hit what the eyes can't see.
Mm.
And we've heard I believe it's Noam Chomsky say that he who controls the news controls the people.
Mm.
I'm constantly engaged in conversations with my friends who work on the Hill and my friends who are elected officials around the country about the need to create a more simplified, concise message. Part of my message is that this woman who died was more than white. She was more than a woman. She was more than a mother. She was a human being.
Yes, yes.
When I think about the movie, I can't remember the name of it, but Samuel L. Jackson plays a father who kills a man because he raped his daughter. A Time to Kill. And in the movie, Matthew McConaughey, he's up against this Southern DA. And when in his closing arguments, he gives this picture and tells the jury, now imagine that your child was in this situation, was raped and whatever. And he gives this gory picture. And then they know that it's him talking about Samuel Jackson. And he ends it and he says, now imagine she was white. I believe that there are a lot of reasons for us to be fearful today. And I'm listening to a book right now called Peaks and Valleys, and I just finished reading it for maybe the 5th or 6th time, Who Moved My Cheese? We're in a valley right now. We want to get back to the peak. We want to be able to be on the top with the moral high ground and the financial well-being and the religious believing that, okay, what we're doing is right. But how do we get there with all of these things that keep pushing us down to the valley? And I think that in order to get back to the peak, we've got to figure out, how do we let go of the baggage? The baggage is how we keep saying, well, they keep doing this to us because of this color of our skin, because of my gender, because how do we figure out that all of us, regardless of ethnicity or gender or nationality, all have the same enemy? We can't do that if we keep carrying the baggage. The woman who was killed, you just said, was killed just blocks away from where George Floyd was killed. And both of them were killed by law enforcement. Both of them were killed by men with a gun. America has a gun problem. America has a violence problem. America has an issue, yes, that is deeply rooted in terms of ethnicity that goes back to, I'm just going to use 2008 to 2016, because I've been saying this on the show, that they didn't attack President Obama just because he was a skin color. They attacked him because he represented us, because he offered hope. They don't want us to hope, because when we hope, we can be free. That's what they did to us when we were enslaved. And we're still enslaved today because we're still living on the precipice of this idea that fear is grounding us and keeping us from moving up the mountain that Dr. King talked about. We think about these things in these quotes and these speeches that have been given, but there's a deeper meaning that I too will get to the mountaintop.
Let me try this, because I know we have just 2 or 3 minutes before we come forward, and this is a profound conversation for me. I still mourn the loss of Charlie Kirk. Do I agree with anything he said? No. Do I like his politics? Did I? No. Do I agree with his right-wing spin on everything and, matter of fact, racist spin on men? Absolutely not. Do I think That that man at the end of the day had the right to return home to his wife and to his family? Absolutely, I do. Because at the end of the day, we all get to go home. That's American. That was political violence, and it is unacceptable on the left or on the right. When we do it to each other, when we do it to others, it is just plain wrong, and it needs to stop. I want to make the distinction, however, between political violence and state violence. State violence, when law enforcement puts their knee on the neck of a citizen. When law enforcement shoots a woman protesting in the face. That's state violence. That's different than political violence. That's state violence when the head of the Department of Homeland Security or the President of the United States or the Vice President of the United States make justifiable statements about an American citizen who's married with kids and seeks to change the narrative to justify why she was shot in the face. That's different for me than pure political violence. That's state-sponsored terror. And it's going to happen again because the government itself is justifying and is essentially told in numbers of speeches where President Trump was running for office. He said, why don't you put your cuffs on them and slam their heads into the back of the car? Take the gloves off, he would say. Go ahead and hit them. They come up, they spit, we hit back, or something, he said. That's state violence for men and women who serve the country honorably and historically have been seen as public servants, whether they're Border Patrol agents, law enforcement officers. We serve and protect the public. Never before have talking about weaponizing a vehicle, never before have people weaponized law enforcement towards and against the American people on the scale that we're witnessing. And more conversations with the T-Bone, KBLA Talk 1580, when we come forward on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The White House says the deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis is tied to what it calls an organized left-wing movement. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says law enforcement is under attack and accused Democrats of trying to abolish immigration and customs enforcement.
The Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota.
The shooting happened during an enforcement operation where a federal agent killed American citizen Renee Nicole Good. Some Tallahassee, Florida residents are protesting the city's decision to sell the Capital City Country Club for more than $1 million. The National Park Service says the land may contain unmarked graves of formerly enslaved people. And the man accused of stealing Beyonce's unreleased music in Atlanta has pleaded not guilty. Kelvin Evans entered the plea during a virtual Fulton County court hearing. Prosecutors say he stole a laptop and hard drives from an SUV last summer while Beyonce was in town. His next court date is set for next month. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
If you have the skills to be an NFL head coach, this is a good time to be job hunting. There are now 8 NFL teams looking for a new head coach. The Miami Dolphins are the latest team to tell their guy to clean out his office. They fired Mike McDaniel Thursday morning after 4 seasons. Along with Miami, these are the teams in need of a new head coach. Atlanta, Cleveland, Baltimore, Arizona, Tennessee, the New York Giants, and Las Vegas Raiders. Lakers star Luka Doncic is still leading the NBA in scoring. Doncic is averaging 33.7 per game. Clippers star Kawhi Leonard leads the NBA in steals with 2.2 per game. Friday night at 6 p.m., Out of Bounds is moving to prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. And you can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Worried about unpredictable utility bills this winter? LADWP's Level Pay makes budgeting a breeze. With Level Pay, you'll receive a monthly bill that stays the same. No surprises. Even past due amounts can be rolled in, and you'll skip those seasonal spikes from heating your home. Sign up today at ladwp.com/levelpay. That's ladwp.com/levelpay, or call 1-800-DIAL-DWP and take control of your bill.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I got to fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're going to be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app that gets you real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PATH25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PATH25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PATH25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's code PATH25.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays with one of our most thoughtful contributors. Atiba is our very special guest in this hour. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, Jesse.
Atiba, I just want to call her name, Renee Nicole Good, who lost her life at the hands of the United States. An American citizen was shot in the face by someone who swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and to serve the people of the United States. They shot her in her face. And the justification before the investigation has been completed from the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and the Secretary of Homeland Security have all but said They reserve the right to shoot an American in the face for protesting their presence in our cities. It's hard for me to imagine that I'm even having this conversation. Atiba?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but it's a conversation that we need to have. This is one of those conversations you would expect the president to come out and say something that was compassionate, something that was that would be healing. But we're not going to get that. I keep saying no one's coming to save us. This is up to us. This is up to us to figure out how do we connect with our friends and fellow citizens in Middle America. It is up to us to figure out how we go to the Rust Belt and to the South and talk to people who don't necessarily agree with us, but that have the same issues that we do. And part of those issues right now is, and I keep asking my friends who are running campaigns, and maybe it's something that I feel like I keep saying nobody's going to save us. Maybe it's something I have to do myself. To do a video of a family sitting at a computer looking at how their healthcare costs are going up, and end it just shortly with a 30-second clip that says affordability is a hoax. I'm jumping to this, but I'm going to come back to where we're just talking about.
Take your time.
Is what about the person who goes into the grocery store and buys butter and eggs and milk, and before they get to meat and vegetables, they've already spent close to $30? Now, let's go back to why some of these folks joined and are wearing these masks and going out in the streets. They were offered a great deal of money, even a signing bonus. We don't know what their situation is, what led them to there, but how do we, like, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, figure out how to attract someone else to my team? Usually it's because I'm going to pay you more than another team is going to be, or I think that the culture there is going to be better. We have to figure out a way to show and to re-establish that the country's best interest is not to attack Venezuela. The country's best interest is not to attack our own citizens, and the country's best interests are not to keep kicking out immigrants who are doing who are not violating or breaking any laws. We've got to figure out how do we, when we see law enforcement doing what we saw happen in Minneapolis, and we know how the world came to our aid, to support us after George Floyd, but we've got to go back to slavery and talk about how this law enforcement culture and virus that is in this country that plagues us, that is a cancer, started with slavery. We've got to go back and talk about how profit over the planet started with slavery. We've got to go back and talk about how the idea that poor white people being against black people was started because there were a few people that had money that told those poor people that I'm not the problem. The problem is that we have this free labor right here. We have to do a better job of not just talking about the color of our skin, but to talk about how this country has always put its knee on the back, has always shot people in the face, has maimed, has killed, has kicked people out. And it is all founded in this idea that this country was founded on, which is a corrupt thing, which was enslavement, because we're still living it out today. It's just that we're going to our jobs every day and getting paid a little bit and then getting taxed a lot and not realizing that we are the slaves of today.
I can say this, and I really appreciate the depth of this conversation and certainly the tone and spirit within which you are engaging it. I just long for the moment where a woman can exercise her First Amendment rights. She can shout at law enforcement and shout at law enforcement, and a law enforcement officer or agent come from behind his mask and say, "Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job." But these stone-faced, masked bullies who've been authorized by Bovino, Kristi Noem, and the President of the United States to come to our cities and, well, just open up a can of whoop ass. I think it's beneath the dignity of the creed of the nation Give me your tired. Give me your poor. Give me your huddled masses who yearn to breathe free. Come to these teeming shores where we essentially have a place for which we can live free and express ourselves in freedom. At the Kennedy Center, in the clothes that we wear, in the dresses that we wear or pants that we wear. If you like cross-dressing, hey, that's on you. But in America, it's not a problem, because in America, you are free to be yourself. But at some point in time, Atiba, decency is part of this. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. Ma'am, I have a job to do between now and 5 o'clock. I want to go home too. And I remember when they first sent the agents and the National Guard to Los Angeles. And I said, hey, take all of them a cup of coffee. They're there on orders. They're just there to do their job and make them feel comfortable in that space. Something has broken down in terms of the civility between even men who have orders to punish us. There is still a way to handle the moment, in the now. That can, if they won't de-escalate, we can de-escalate. I believe that. There's this thing called being human, as you stated, Atiba, and being decent.
Yeah, it's about being human. We're not being human, and we've lost class. I remember 2002 being in France and talking to people and practicing my French because I used to speak fluently, and the conversation being that, Atiba, your country is like The Simpsons. Well, Europe has been seeing that about us for a long time. We're seeing it now. America, our culture from the top to the bottom is The Simpsons. You know, we've got Bart literally running the country in a sense. And we've got, what is Bart, or what is his father? Do, you know, and Bart's like, don't have a cow, man. And, you know, all these things, like, this is the cartoon. We are in the cartoon. We can't change this until we recognize that we've got to be the adult in the room, and that we cannot think that we can do this by giving away our power, because as John Lewis, who you served in Congress with, always told us about the importance of the vote, and people took that for granted. The vote is the most important thing. And if we don't get that today, then we're not going to recognize that on November 3rd, 2026, they're going to do whatever they can to take more of that away from us. I'm just going to go back to this too. Slavery, we act as if, I won't say all of us, but some of us act as if civil rights began with 1960 civil rights movement. And it didn't. Or that the civil rights movement was like the beginning of our history. It wasn't. We've got to go all the way back to the beginning. This woman being killed reminds me of the woman who died during the civil rights movement for driving.
Viola Lewis and driving.
Exactly. During the bus boycott.
Atiba, we're going to come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. We'll pick right up where we left off. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Conversations with Atiba on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money, or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me.
Hey, the Lunch Club on KBLA Talk 1580. Jesse Jackson Jr. And on Thursdays, his newly scheduled hour, our Conversations with Atiba, will commence. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and Conversations with Atiba. Atiba?
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Atiba, just before the break, you were making the comparison between Miss Good in Minnesota and the tragic loss of the life of Viola Luizzo from Selma to Montgomery.
Yeah, just overall, I'm kind of speechless right now because I feel like there are all these different things that are happening that are metaphors and lessons and something for us to use to get out of this. And I think we have to go back and talk about the past, because the past has a way, maybe not of repeating itself, but it daggone certainly rhymes. And so Renee's death and passing in Minneapolis, I feel the same way I feel about George Floyd, that I hope that it's not in vain. And the only way that we can make sure that it's not in vain is for us to pick up and recognize that through our own veins flows blood, and that blood connects us far more than this on the surface color, because there are people of all different ethnicities that have A and B and O and O negative, O plus, et cetera, that we're more connected by what's in our veins than we are by what's in our color. And part of that connection is also in our tissues. I use the term that our issues are in our tissues. So this whole idea that, it's white versus black and Muslim versus Christian and gender this and that, it's not. John Glenn, when he was in outer space, said, how could anyone believe that there isn't a God? And I know that there are people that are questioning, how is God and why is God letting this happen? And my answer is that because we dropped the ball. We have gotten so caught up in me and we've forgotten about we.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask this question to you, but often on our show, I ask our regular contributors to share with our audience how they can be supportive of your work. Tell us about Saving Grace and where we can get your book.
Thank you for that. It's ironic, actually it was when we came up with the cover for Saving Grace, it was a friend of mine who, after reading the manuscript, thought like, Atiba, this is justice. It's about the country. It's about corruption. It's about power. It's about the absence of justice. Why not use a gavel and show it breaking the flag, but not to be derogatory about it, but to show that it's broken. But then by the time we get back to you get to your third book, and the story is putting it back together. So I say that to say that Saving Grace, the main character's name is Anthony Grace, which is hence the reason why it's called Saving Grace, the story starts off with him being kidnapped, and it's all tied to a case that he's working on and something he finds in Washington, D.C. that he knows that unless people see it, that they're not going to believe it. And it's an undercover operation. And I say all that to say with the premise that hopefully that pulls some people in and gets a visual, because what we see happening today is a travesty of justice. And so I kind of feel almost like, in terms of the cover, that it is exactly what's happening today, and that all of us have to play a part in saving this and forming some way of, how do we save grace? How do we save ourselves? How do we save the idea that, we're all in this together? But you can get my copy of my book. You can either put my first and last name, which is atibamadyoun.com, ATIBAMADYUN.com, and it'll redirect you to the website novelsbyatiba.com to get a copy. And if you buy a copy on my page, I will sign it and put a personal message in it and send it. Or you can also go onto Amazon and put Saving Grace and Atiba, and it will come up, and you can get it there, either of the physical form, which I can't sign because it's coming from Amazon, or you can get it on Kindle.
Thank you very much for that, Atiba. Atiba, Miss Renee Good, does she represent a turning point in the consciousness of the nation's country for the activity of the role that the federal government has historically played in the states, and a red line that we may be crossing now?
There's so much to unpack with that, including her last name, Good, because my great grandmother used to say, "Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best."
Better to best.
You got to make her this good, better in terms of our minds and in terms of how we not just call on her, remind ourselves of what happened, but recognize that we are in this together. My great grandmother used to also say, "It's a good thing to remember, but a better thing to do. Always hang with the construction gang and not the wrecking crew." And what we see right now is definitely the wrecking of an idea that began 250 years ago this July. We are in the midst right now of, we are in a reckoning right now. And we have to realize that we the people, and that the government right now, what we are seeing is not representative of what we have been believed that the government should be, and that there are a small cadre of men, and there are some others who are helping them, that are pushing forward an agenda that is for them. It is not for us, and it's not for the people that voted for them. They have made them believe that this is for them. This is right now, the back door of the bank is open, and they're taking everything that we have in order to make us enslaved to them and have to bend our knee to them. So when we think about George Floyd, and we think about the bended knee that was on his neck, and we think about Renee Good, and we think about what happened to her, she was doing something good, and her life was taken from her. And that can happen to any of us. That we all have to figure out how we are going to come together as a nation, because the reality is they want us to fear them And we have to let go the same way that John Lewis talked about how he let go of his fear walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that after they beat him and his skull was cracked open, when he lived through that, he didn't have any more fear, that he was able to stand up and speak to that, to the injustice that was going on. And all of us collectively need to lock arms together, imagine and think about whether or not we're touching each other or not, how those men and women crossed the bridge, even though they were denied the opportunity to walk the first time, that they went back and they went back and they persevered. They persevered because they did not stop. And they said, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.
It's going to be an interesting commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. That's exactly what we are celebrating for the entire year, certainly through July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And to get the new year started, the first chapter is probably named Renee Good, that one woman in Minnesota, to start the New Year's off, was shot in the face by the United States. Atiba, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's always good to be with you, Jesse.
You know, we have about 1 minute left, Atiba. Did you want to summarize for us just a brief word of hope?
I'll just summarize it. I'll try to do with this. We're in 2026, and it's the 250th anniversary of this country. And there's so much that has happened over the 250-year history of this nation. And there's so much that is going on today. And just for us to look for the symbols not just of freedom, but the symbols that have marked oppression in this country. And then over the course of time, how people always figured out ways, whether or not they did it because they wanted to or because they were forced to come together for the greater good. And today is like no other, perhaps more so than ever before. This is our time to recognize that we have to come together and to let go of the fear and to take one step in front of the other and keep marching as in terms of the staircase that we have to keep walking on faith and believe that God has something better in store for us, but that we've got to figure out how to do this together.
Always an amazing conversation. Thank you, Atiba. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Thought Provoking Thursdays. When we come forward, none other than Dr. Johnny Mack.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The White House says the deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis is tied to what it calls an organized left-wing movement. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says law enforcement is under attack and accused Democrats of trying to abolish immigration and customs enforcement.
The Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota.
The shooting happened during an enforcement operation where a federal agent killed American citizen Renee Nicole Good. Some Tallahassee, Florida residents are protesting the city's decision to sell the Capital City Country Club for more than $1 million. The National Park Service says the land may contain unmarked graves of formerly enslaved people. And the man accused of stealing Beyonce's unreleased music in Atlanta has pleaded not guilty. Kelvin Evans entered the plea during a virtual Fulton County court hearing. Prosecutors say he stole a laptop and hard drives from an SUV last summer while Beyonce was in town. His next court date is set for next month. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
If you have the skills to be an NFL head coach, this is a good time to be job hunting. There are now 8 NFL teams looking for a new head coach. The Miami Dolphins are the latest team to tell their guy to clean out his office. They fired Mike McDaniel Thursday morning after 4 seasons. Along with Miami, these are the teams in need of a new head coach: Atlanta, Cleveland, Baltimore, Arizona, Tennessee, the New York Giants, and Las Vegas Raiders. Lakers star Luka Doncic is still leading the NBA in scoring. Doncic is averaging 33.7 per game. Clippers star Kawhi Leonard leads the NBA in steals with 2.2 per game. Friday night at 6 p.m., Out of Bounds is moving to prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. And you can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Provoking Thursdays and always World House. Johnny Mac. Johnny Mac is one of our great contributors on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and I'm particularly honored that going into the new year, Dr. Mac has joined us in his regularly scheduled position on the show. Dr. Mac, welcome forward to our show.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Always, it's a pleasure to have.
Happy New Year, Johnny.
And same to you, man.
And I've missed you, man. I know that we've had some necessary time off during the holidays. Tavis allowed us the privilege of having a few days off and playing some of the older shows, but nothing like Live with Johnny Mac.
You're kind. I'm glad to be back in conversation. There's so much to talk about.
Johnny, if I can kick the conversation off with just maybe 2 points that we're kind of going to be reflecting on back and forth over the course of the year. And that is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, July 4th, 2026. We start the new year off and had a wonderful conversation in the last hour with Atiba, with a woman in Minnesota by the United States of America getting shot in the face, exercising what there's sufficient evidence to suggest her constitutional rights to challenge law enforcement and their behavior in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'm thinking, and Atiba reminded us before the last break, that the Viola Luizzo turning point and the James Reeb turning point were significant turning points in 1965 between Selma and Montgomery. And even though blacks had been losing their lives in the South for a number of decades, maybe even a number of centuries, when white life dies in this struggle, it tends to be a turning point in ways that we saw with the example that I gave about Bobby Kennedy. Johnny, your thoughts on the standard and your thoughts about, where we are in this moment.
Yeah. So where we are in this moment first, perhaps, Jesse, and then my thoughts about, what essentially is which lives matter and how much they matter. Where we are in the moment, Jesse, is so important for us all to understand, and to understand it in a very existential way. We've talked over our many conversations on this show about being in the middle of a process that is establishing a new world order. And Jesse, we can't spend enough time on that, in my view, particularly because the average listener on this program, and more broadly, the average citizen, doesn't have the tools, Jesse. Or if we have the tools, we know not how to use the tools to understand where we are, determine whether that is where we ought to be, and if not, where then should we go? And again, the moment that we are in is not just a moment, it's a process. And we are going through the process of establishing a new world order. Who's participating in that? My point is, the average citizen should have a say in what that new world order is. But if we don't have the tools, or if we have the tools and we don't know how to use them, how then do we participate? And why then do we allow others to determine what the trajectory of our lives should be and what the social order should be that determines the quality of our lives? And therein, Jesse, lies the problem with the poor sister who lost her life so needlessly. It is, in large part, I argue, because we don't know where we are. We have forgotten from where we've come, and we have no notion of where we're going.
Johnny, I know that we're going to be coming forward in just a moment, but in this moment, I must admit, I feel some kind of way about my existence being replaced potentially by artificial intelligence with more efficient systems. I feel some kind of way about the greedy taking oil from underneath my feet if I'm a Venezuelan, or lithium out of the Congo, and yet some of the poorest people, bauxite, cobalt, are in the Congo without the ability to take their raw materials and turn them into cell phones or to computers or to drones. And somehow the blessed of us get to take advantage of all of the resources of the world, and the rest of us become expendable in that process.
Yeah, right.
It's not just about creating jobs. It's about, for me, creating middle-class jobs, jobs where people can pay a mortgage, can put their children through college. Children can look forward to owning the homes of their parents, or even buying their own homes as first-time home buyers. We're not creating middle-class jobs. In fact, we are replacing the middle class with artificial means of intelligence. We are taking natural resources from the poorest of the poor in the world. We are bullying them. We are bribing them. We are stealing them. And I'm deeply troubled by the world that we are inheriting. And it's not the world that Dr. King left us with. More when we come forward with Johnny Mack, when we come forward on the World House on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
10 athletes will face the toughest job interview in fitness that will push past physical and mental breaking points. You are the fittest of the fit. Only one of you will leave here with an iFit contract for $250,000.
This is when mindset comes in.
Someone will be eliminated.
Pressure is coming down.
Trainer Games on Prime Video January 8th. Watch the trailer on trainergames.com.
Looking for something new? Try fencing, the Olympic and Paralympic sport that mixes speed, strategy, and fun. It's like chess meets cardio. Quick feet, quick decisions, and a satisfying beat when you score a point. Kids, teens, and adults can start anytime. No experience needed, and many clubs have loaner gear. Coaches teach fundamentals and safety from day one. Find a beginner class near you at usafencing.org/tryfencing. That's usafencing.org/tryfencing.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse Jackson Jr. looking forward to the World House with Johnny Mack. Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Mack is one of our most brilliant and thoughtful contributors. He helps center us going into the new year. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse.
Dr. Mack, there's a sense of loneliness, a sense of alienation in this particular transformation of the way in which the world order and the economies of the world are transforming themselves.
Yes.
And they don't seem to be as human-centered as they should be. And maybe it was inevitable that the idea of a human-centered ethos driven by a system that is a profit-maximizing never-ending combine that's operating in the middle of a cornfield with no driver, but being guided by some kind of satellite for maximum profit. It's a machine that, in some ways, is out of control, but it makes mincemeat of people in the process. Johnny, the 97th birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. is upon us. How would Dr. King see the world in which we presently find ourselves?
So I think Dr. King, well, not the exact details and probably not the same magnitude that we are realizing in terms of the quantum leaps, and I use that word intentionally, that technology has taken, but he saw something like this as he stood on that mountaintop and he looked over and he saw the promised land. I'm not so sure, however, that the promised land as we are beginning to realize it today is that land that King envisioned. So I don't want to mislead our audience in that regard. I think King would say, "I told you so."
Mm.
You know, and I warned you that you should, or yes, that remember, Jesse, King said, "I may not get there with you." Well, that applies not only to the promised land of his vision, but it also applies to the land we are in now. He knew he would not get here with us.
That's deep there.
Yeah. So we as a people not only had in his mind to come together to realize that vision of the promised land, in other spaces and places, he talked about we as a people had to come together and prepare for what would come if we had not reached yet the promised land. And that's where we are, Jesse, to the question you previously asked, where are we? And that's where King says, in my mind, see, I told you so. I warned you that you must mobilize and organize yourselves. I warned you that you must realize that a new world order is coming and you must prepare yourself for it. Not only for what would come as a new world order, but you must prepare yourself to be part of the process that determines what that new world order would be. And Jesse, we simply haven't done that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, his vision, his idea of a world house, that we must learn. He didn't say, Jesse, you and Johnny must learn, and Tom and Fred must learn, and Barbara and Bobby must learn. He said, we must all come together, and I'll add the word in solidarity to determine how we're going to live in the world house. And that work we have not done, which is why we are so fragmented today as a people. And when I say as a people, I don't mean as Black people necessarily and particularly solely. I mean we as global citizens, as planetizens, as people of the human race. I can go on, Jesse, but I'll stop and take a breath.
Well, go right ahead. I'm a little bit troubled because I think of one of the most successful models of a people connected to a land that has actually become a part of their identity is global Jewry. Since the Balfour Agreement, Israel, a place of refuge for Jewish people, with the narrative, of course, of the events of World War II that led to the prioritization, the global community, of the creation of the state, largely with the influence and the support of the United States, given our hegemony at the time, and what had horrifically happened to the Jewish people, the creation of Israel. But today, in modern psychology, for the world and for Jewish people alike, they have a place to go. It's part of their theology, it's part of their existential reality, it's part of the internalization of who they are, it's philosophy, it's theology, it's scholastic, it's academic, it is the core of who they are. Where are you on Israel and its existence? We still here in the United States, as African Americans, are a people without a land. And I think about the Venezuelans. Even if you are in your own land, here comes America to suck everything from under your soil, to take that which they don't want on the surface, or the concerns for which Dr. King clearly expressed, for terrestrial dwellers, people on top of the land, who need the resources beneath their land in order to transform their existence from one of poverty, from one where fresh water does not exist, from one where hospitals are not being built. And when they are being built, they're being built by philanthropists on the outside of the countries, because the absence of doctors and sustainable development make trauma 1, trauma 2, or trauma 3 level centers in many of these countries an impossible reality. I'm wondering, Johnny, if this idea of the poor shall be with us always, it might have been something that was said biblically, but the reality is the organized, industrialized, and modernized nations of the world do have the power to eliminate poverty from the earth right now. but it's a function of human will. And I think Dr. King understood that. In fact, on Martin Luther King's 97th birthday, I'm going to be speaking at Reverend Will Hall's church next weekend, and a weekend after next, and I'll be speaking in Waukegan, Illinois. And I'm modeling my speech. I'm going to give away my title right now, Beyond Venezuela. Modeling it after Beyond Vietnam, delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. Beyond Venezuela. Help me with that, Johnny. Beyond Venezuela. Modern interpretation of Riverside.
Well, another one of those tall orders. I can't wait to hear your speech, Jesse. Remember, we've talked about understanding where we are, what I like to call both in time and over time. And I think that that consideration applies here. You know, there's a certain now, not yet tension that human beings are always confronted with. Your point about, the existential, what is happening to us right now in our lives, what is happening in Venezuela right now is important. But let's not let it overwhelm us such that we don't understand what is not yet. In other words, is this move strictly about oil? Or is there something else going on? Is it about poverty today? Or is there something else going on? Again, we're talking about the now and the not yet. Jesse, I would encourage you to consider in your speech, this now or not yet dilemma. And in doing so, think about that document we talked about several weeks ago called Project 2025. If one takes the time to carefully read that document, one would not be surprised that what's happening in Venezuela is expressly written about in Project 2025. Please read the document. It expressly talks about taking over Venezuela, and not only Venezuela, but several other countries. It talks about Cuba. It talks about Nicaragua. It talks about Colombia. It talks about Mexico. It talks about so many other countries, particularly in the Western Hemisphere.